Aussie Athlete.
Vulnerability. Most people see vulnerability as a weakness, as something that holds them back in life, as something to never show. You've got to be a man, or be a powerful person, and have no signs of vulnerability and get rid of them from your life. But I think the contrary. I think in vulnerability there is a lot of power and a vast potential for growth that you just can't experience otherwise. I think of vulnerability as an ability rather than a weakness. I grew up not feeling like I basically never cried. I never expressed the feelings that I had inside me. If I felt hurt by something or carried around any inner pain, I would just carry it around and not express it to other people, and just kind of pretend like it didn't exist and just fit in like business as usual. And that's great in a protective environment, like say you're in a war zone, survival situation. Then yeah, it's cool to be protecting yourself and not be vulnerable. If someone's trying to kill you, you're not going to share things about your deepest, darkest moments. But fortunately, we don't live in that world where most of us are in a place where we have the opportunity to grow, we have the opportunity to change our environment, and we have the opportunity to be vulnerable with our emotions in a safe environment. Basically, yeah, so I didn't want to be vulnerable at all when I was younger, and it made me feel very uncomfortable, the mere thought of being vulnerable. But I found that like today, I am completely open about anything. I share, like I don't keep secrets from people. It doesn't mean sharing everything with everybody, because it's not of interest to everybody. But to me, vulnerability, the benefits of being vulnerable with your emotions is like in being vulnerable with your emotions effectively to help you to grow. It needs to start with a willingness to be vulnerable. If you're not willing, it's not going to come from anywhere else. So you've got to start with a willingness to be vulnerable. You need to have an initiative with your vulnerability to share with others what you're feeling. Most people will wait. Like in my experience, most people will wait until somebody asks them something that's maybe a bit confrontational or a bit sensitive, and then they may be willing to be vulnerable at that point. But in order to grow, you really need to really push that growth, you need to have an initiative to be vulnerable with your emotions. In my experience, I remember a point where I was scared, I was terrified of being vulnerable. I eat a raw vegan diet, 80-10-10 plant-based diet. That's all I eat. I eat 100% raw vegan diet. But I remember sometimes over the years, I've been doing that for 9 years now. I started in late 2005. But over the years that followed, there were times where I had some emotional things that came up for me with relationship issues and other issues that challenged me in ways that I didn't really understand what to do about. I didn't understand the problem. I didn't understand what it was that I was feeling. I didn't know why I felt lost. But that got magnified by my unwillingness to be vulnerable and a lack of initiative to be vulnerable. In the example of when I went back and ate cooked food again, it was always vegan, but during these emotional times, I would find myself just eating like fried vegan food at a fast food, and it was terrible, and I felt ashamed from that, and that just ate away at my integrity, my self-esteem, my self-worth, and then I would come back to interacting with people in the raw movement, and I'd feel ashamed about sharing that with them. Like, that so many months ago I did this, and I would just keep it quiet, and hopefully they didn't notice that I was like a little bit more puffy than usual. But they notice, and they don't usually say anything about it, but you can see it on people. So I carried around this shame, and shame is a powerful thing, because like there's guilt and then there's shame. Guilt is like I did something wrong, but shame is more like I am wrong. So it's really powerful, and it really eats away at you. It's not something I recommend carrying around. So if you're feeling anything like that, I encourage you to share what it is you're feeling with somebody you trust in a safe environment. Be brave and be willing to put it out there. And you know, I think the worst thing that's going to happen is that you'll grow through the experience. Once I started sharing my story about, you know, when I would go back and eat cooked food because of these experiences, it lifted a veil off me. It made me feel like myself again. Like I started, each time I did that, it was building my integrity and building my self-worth and just building up all these good feelings within me. And I felt more like I was myself rather than hiding from being myself. And that's really important. So yeah, a lot of power and personal growth can come from vulnerability, but it does take a willingness and an initiative to get started, and then only good things will follow. So I encourage you to be vulnerable with your emotions, put it out there, be brave, and enjoy the fruits of your efforts. I look forward to sharing more emotional poise tips with you in the near future, and hope you have a vibrant day.
Like, subscribe, visit, add, and follow Raw Aussie Athlete.